Morning, everyone. This is Makram El-Amin with Makram's Motivations, and I wanted just to take a moment to just share some thoughts today on an idea or a topic I've been thinking about. It comes about a lot in the coaching that we do with many individuals trying to make some progress in some facet of their lives, make some progress maybe to rebound from a setback that has taken place with them. But many times we find that these people they get stuck a little bit. And I always say, don't get stuck in the mud. Don't get stuck in the mud. And what we mean by that is that we have these setbacks. We have these things in life that come and really just sometimes they just are overwhelming. Sometimes they are setbacks. Sometimes they're just complete failures. We've tried to do something. We've tried to start a business. We've tried to have a relationship. We've tried to, do something that was momentous, something that was big, something that we've been aiming at, and so on. And we fell short. It just didn't happen the way that we wanted it to happen. And many times, what happens is some of these individuals that are trying to work through this is that they really get stuck in this idea of failing, of things didn't reaching the mark that what they were aiming for. And this is a problem in terms of their ability to move forward in many respects. So I always try to remind people we can't get stuck in the mud. We all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. That's one of the characteristics that make us human. We try to do things, we aim at things, we sometimes have our best intentions to do something and we fall short. That happens in our personal lives. That happens in our professional lives, in our communal lives, all the different lives that we have within this one totality of life. But we've had failures. And one of the ideas is to say that, we have to get beyond this notion that failure in and of itself is a bad word. Now, I'm not saying to anyone, be comfortable with failure and failure is fine. But the idea is that we all fail at things. This old the saying, actually a quote, I believe, from Thomas Edison, who they attribute, the invention of the light bulb, even though others we know improved upon Edison, this light bulb. But nonetheless, they asked him after so many failures, so you failed, 999 times trying to invent this light bulb, and why did you continue? Why did you keep going? And he simply said, I just simply found 999 ways that it wouldn't work. All I needed was one way that it would work, and we got it. So this idea of failure in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's a human thing, but it's what we do with that failure. So it's the idea of failures versus lessons. Failures versus lessons. So the failure is something that's a hurdle, something that we didn't meet the mark, we made a mistake, we erred, and it just sat there. We stayed stuck in the mud. Failure. Lesson now. We didn't make the mark. We didn't hit our goal, our intended target. We didn't hit that, whatever that was. But we found out ways to improve upon that effort. And whether it was the first time or the second time or the third time, whatever that was, that allowed for us to overcome that, quote, failure. And it became a lesson, something that was a launching pad to launch me into the next phase of my work, my life, my profession, etc., etc. So this life is about progress over perfection. None of us are perfect. In our individual lives and moral, we make mistakes, we sin. We make errors. We miss the mark in many ways, oftentimes. But it's really not about the idea of perfection, meaning I am flawless. By that measure, none of us can measure, none of us can do that. None of us can be that. So that's not really what the measure is. The measure is about progress. I say progress over perfection. Progress over perfection. Where am I today? Where am I tomorrow? And being able to measure the distance between the two of those things on a higher trajectory. I'm not quite where I want to be, but I'm better than I was yesterday. I'm not where I want to be today, but I'm definitely better than I was yesterday, and I hope to be even higher tomorrow. So this idea of having progress over perfection. So I try to really emphasize to you, to myself, this is really a affirmation to myself, is don't get stuck in the mud, Makram. Don't get stuck in the mud. Yes, You know, you've started businesses, they didn't go well. You've done various efforts. You're trying to learn how to do these videos better. Sometimes they stink. Sometimes they don't come out well. But I'm putting my best foot forward and trying to make some progress all along the way because I believe in progress over perfection. You know, this life has a way of really, bringing us to reality. You know, I remember as a kid, I would grow up and I watched these kids, these movies for kids after school or what have you. And sometimes I said, watch this and get a real false notion of what life was about. You know, I saw these kids or these families, and they had all the abundant things. They had all that they wanted. Everybody had their own room. They all had nice clothes. They were all able to participate in whatever events they wanted, whether it was piano lessons or playing basketball or going other places. Their families took vacations together and all this stuff. But I didn't see how people were working. I didn't see people go to work. I didn't see people struggle to pay bills. I didn't see people, dealing with the regular things of life. And I began to like, wow, that's different. This is a Disneyland. This is something I'm not used to. I'm used to people struggling. I'm used to people not having all that we needed, having to make do, having to cope and compensate for other things because we didn't have all we needed all the time. And so that was an inherent belief in myself that something was wrong. Something was wrong with my picture, and that's what I was supposed to aim for. However, one of the things that came out of the reality, not that fiction, not that projection of what life was in this fairy tale, this Disneyland, but it was this idea of having to overcome, having to persevere, having a level of resiliency in my life that allowed me to, stay in the game, even though it was difficult, even though it was hard, even though the task seemed overwhelming at times, even though I couldn't do it all on my own, I had to elicit help from other people. But to stay in the game and have that sense of resiliency, that's what it takes. That's the real push. That's what is necessary. It was a famous saying that, sometimes things happen to us in life and it's all about, afflicting the comfortable. Afflicting the comfortable. The idea that you become, passive in your situation. Maybe you think that things have gotten so easy for you, or things that you're on a certain path, but then you would get a failure. Something happens that throws you for a curve, throws you for a loop, and it's about afflicting the comfortable. And those who get comfortable, they have something that comes to stimulate them that really takes them to a higher level, to another level. And sometimes it's about comforting the afflicted. The idea that sometimes we do make these gains. We do make this progress in our lives after we've suffered a hardship that builds some momentum within our own selves. So whether it's to comfort the afflicted or to afflict the comfortable, life is on life's terms. So we must build that resilience. And last but not least, I would say on this idea of don't get stuck in the mud, it's, God is merciful, the most merciful. And he gives us chance after chance to live our lives, to reinvent ourselves, to make up for errors and mistakes every day that we have life. We wake up with this vigor, this energy in our lives that allows us to go out and to be better than what we were yesterday. So I wanted just to end this session for you today, this motivational session for you today, with a reminder: don't get stuck in the mud. Don't lose your way. Don't lose that hope that tomorrow is going to be better, because that's really the failure. That in and of itself, that's the failure. That's what is the sentence, of this life, where it takes us away from where we really want to be. So please, remind yourselves, don't get stuck in the mud.